When I was 10, I started getting involved in looking at pornography. No one really taught me about sex. It wasn't something that we really talked about at home. It wasn't something we talked about at church. We never had internet when I was a child. We got it in when I was about 13 or 14. And I think when that happened, that just opened a floodgate. I must have given my computer so many viruses because every link that came up, I clicked on it. It's like saying to someone with a drug addiction, hey, see this addiction you've got? Here's all the drugs you could ever possibly take for free. How much of that are you going to take? I never told anybody, of course I did. I was scared if I talked about it that I would be seen as not good enough, that I wasn't meeting the standard. That ranged from when we got the internet when I was 14, all the way up until 26. I knew it was having a negative effect on me, that it was changing how I viewed things, especially how I viewed women. Honestly, I just felt so alone. I felt hollow.
I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. I knew I wanted to be a missionary. I love cultures, I love people. I was just praying, God, any countries yet? Anything, someplace you want me to go? I just sat there and honestly, I just felt the impression Scotland. I can't even explain it. It wasn't like an audible voice. Just Scotland came to my mind and I was like, are you sure? So we went over there and it's just a small church on a street and the head pastor said, okay, well, this is our guy who's going to be leading. His name is Paul McLean. I look at him and I don't really think anything of it. Yeah, so I got back to Springfield, Missouri, back to Central Bible College to graduate. So I was just there finishing up school. We honestly didn't really talk that much on Facebook, just like, hey, how are you? And then I think everything changed in 2011.
Yeah, from there we started Skyping every so often and it'd been building up. This was almost a year later. I eventually just kind of blurted it out during Skype, like, look, I really like you. Yeah, when I was connecting with Hannah, unfortunately the porn never went away. It was still there. But one thing I did that Hannah always thanked me for doing was I was at least honest with her up front about it.
So when I found out that the person that I was falling in love with, struggling with this, it threw me a curve. Because I thought, well, just don't do it. Just turn your mind off, just don't click on those. And that wasn't gonna help.
I thought, this is done, this is over. Because there's no way someone like her is gonna hang about for someone like me that's this low and this deep in the pit of sin. This tar covering me, there's no way. And against all odds and everything that was going on while she was in Scotland in 2013, I proposed and she said yes. And I knew that our marriage was doomed if I took this in with us. I really started seeking God to help me with it.
Going through and standing by someone with the pornography addiction, it was really wearing on me. And I was starting to get really tired, really emotionally worn. Because especially leading up to our marriage day, a part of me felt like, well, maybe if we got married, that would help, that would finish it. I remember just praying, I'm like, God, just help him, reveal something to him.
I couldn't even tell you the day it happened or how it happened. I'd seen a video floating about the difference between men and women's brains and how they think and how they function. And never in a million years was I watching this thinking, this is going to be my cure-all. What people don't realize is it's here. It's a mental battle. I was becoming so focused on my satisfaction and my gratification. It's going to corrupt what your perception of sex is. It's going to make you selfish. It's not going to just corrupt any potential romantic relationship you have. It's going to corrupt any relationship you have with anyone because it's going to warp who you are as a person. And it was almost like eyes opening. In that moment, I really fully realised how much I was hurting Hannah, and that this had to stop.
The hurt is so deep. There's so many different parts to it. It hurt because I'll never be able to look like that, what he sees. There's hurt because when you look at pornography, you're doing everything that you should be doing with your wife with someone else. And so I was scared. I was like, I'm saving myself. But here's a guy that I really like where he's not fully, not completely with his heart. And so I was scared if I was gonna lose him. And I remember Paul Skyped me and he was kind of excited. And he goes, I get it. And I go, what? You get what? He goes, I get how I've been hurting you. And it was almost like a relief, because it's hard to explain to someone what that hurt feels like when it's so multifaceted, when it's so deep.
It's not, I'm not going to say that it was perfect after that. There was a lot of stuff personally that I had to work through, and a lot of stuff personally as a couple that we had to work through after that. And that God has finally started kind of bringing us through, you know, almost 4 years married, but the pornography and the masturbation stopped that day. What God's kind of taught me about sex is, I mean, even in the beginning of our marriage, there was so much I had to unlearn. There was so much I had to unlearn of stuff that I'd learned in the world, and I'd learned through pornography, I'd learned through all these different things. God had to really teach us what true sex was, what He had truly intended it to be. The world's view of sex is about what can I get? What can I get? You're going to meet my needs, you're going to gratify me, you're going to fulfill my sexual needs, my sexual wants and loves and desires. And why would we imagine that God's version of sex is any different than how He tells us to act? It's about loving. It's about loving someone else. It's about connecting with your wife or your husband. What if God's taught me about sex parallels our relationship with Him, the relationship I now have with my wife? At least for me, a big part of it was, you have to let go and give up control. I had to let go in marriage and trust that my wife is going to fulfill my needs, and it's the exact same in life. We try so often to tell God, I need this to happen, I need that to happen, and He's like, just let go and trust that I'm going to meet that need.
Talk to God about sex. Talk about your struggles, whether you're a teen or you're just getting into that, or you're just newly married. Talk to God about it, because He created it and it's good. And if God's perfect and He's good, then He didn't create anything shameful. He didn't create anything like that. So why do we feel like sex is shameful or bad? Porn
is harmful, regardless of who you are, gender you are, what age you are, if you're in a relationship or not. People think, you know, it's like, oh, it doesn't cause any harm, it's just me and myself, I'm not in a relationship. And you are causing harm. You're causing harm to yourself. You just don't realize it. You don't realize the pain that you're putting yourself through. And my worry for anyone who's struggling with this is, by the time you realize what pain you're putting yourself through, you're going to be trapped in it like I was. And it's a lot harder to get out of that hole. You know, you don't realize how deep the hole's getting while it's being dug, and then one moment you look up and the opening's this dot of light above you. It's going to corrupt your mind. It's going to corrupt how you view men. It's going to corrupt how you view women. Women, it's going to corrupt how you view men. It's going to corrupt what your perception of sex is. It's going to make you selfish and all about getting what satisfies your needs. It's not going to just corrupt any potential romantic relationship you have. It's going to corrupt any relationship you have with anyone, because it's going to warp who you are as a person. There's no safety net, there's no, I can watch a couple of videos and I'll be fine. It's every little bit of it. And please don't be maligned into thinking I don't go to any adult websites or read any adult magazines, so I'm fine. Be careful of the other things you put into yourself. Movies, books, comics, television shows, they're all pushing boundaries of what is acceptable. And just because it's acceptable, just like Paul said, everything may be acceptable in terms of culture, but it doesn't mean it's beneficial to you. In fact, it can harm you severely. I'm Paul, and this is my wife Hannah, and God created sex.
And it is good.